Hey everybody, welcome to this video. It's been a little while since I've done a tier list style video in this format, so I hope you enjoy it. Recently, there's been a lot of, I think, really cool and for the most part healthy and interesting debate going on in the D&D world, kind of around this decision in the monster manual to exclude orcs as a monster stat block. Now, I'm not here today to really provide some big grand opinion or solution about that. I do think it's interesting that a side effect of that conversation has been about how we talk about what is a monster, what is people, what is a player character. And it kind of made me consider as I was talking with one of my gaming groups about this, as a DM, what would I allow in my games as a player character. So for this, what if you came to me in one of my home games and you're my friend or we're online or let's say I'm back in the game store professionally running games and you want to throw down money and play in my game and you say, I would like to play this monster as a player character. And what would I say? So I've got my tier list here, and if I were to give, I like how there's not an F tier on this tier list. I found this somewhere. This is not of my creation. I will post the tier list in the description, so maybe you can make your own video or check this out. But let's say F would be a no, never. I'm not even considering it. So that's not here. D tier would be like I really got to think about it. You really got to sell me on like there's got to be a narrative, there's got to be some mechanical fixes or whatnot. We really have to talk this out. C tier, like, I could see it. You're not gonna have to argue too hard, but I'm gonna have to warm up to the idea. B tier is like, I'm probably gonna say yes. I'll the first session or two is gonna be weird, but I'll probably say yes. A tier is a solid, like, yeah, okay, sure, let's try that. And S tier is no questions asked. Yes, let's play this out and see what happens. And just for some context here, I've been playing and running this game pretty much since it came out. So for 10 years now, I've ran this game professionally. A good number of people have paid me money to run their campaigns, and a lot of that was with kids too. So some of my perspective, some of the stories that I'll tell will come from not just online adults who watch Optimancer videos come into my tables and play, but 11-year-olds who have never played the game before or read Lord of the Rings, but they just want to see what D&D is about. So anyway, let's get to it. And for the sake of the hot topic, I went ahead and I moved orc up here first. The rest of it will go through alphabetically the way it's presented in the monster manual. And by the way, this is just the monster manual monsters. I think it would be overkill to go and look at like Volo's guide and Mordenkainen's and settings guides and all that. We're just going to focus on the monster manual, the iconic D&D monsters for 5th edition. But I moved orc up ahead here. So if you came to me and you said, Jackson, I would like to play an orc, what would I say? Well, orc is already a player character race, and I tend to say yes to anything that is published in the books as long as you come to me in good faith. Now, if you were to come to me with something that is, overpowered, seen as overpowered by the community at large, like let's say Twilight Cleric or Chronergist Wizard, and you said, Jackson, I'm going to break your game with Chronergist Wizard, I would say I have a problem with that. Could you play something different, please? Or have a conversation about like, what do you find cool about Chronergist Wizard? Is it the time aspect or is it the mechanics? Because if it's the time aspect, we can work with that and you can still play up the mechanics and whatever. That's okay. If your point is just, I want to break your game, that's not going to be a fun time for me or anyone else at the table. But if you're playing it because you have a narrative in mind, you think the flavor is cool, you want to play Twilight Cleric because you think the goddess Saloon is really nice, or Shar, why not? That's fine. So on the note of orc, if you are just drawn to orcs, either because you're playing a classic Tolkien orc or an orc of Gruumsh, who is either going to play it straight and be an aggressive brute, or you want to kind of have them, I don't know, break free of their evil overlord, their god or whatever, and be something different. Would I let you play an orc in my game? And I'm gonna say this is S tier. I would definitely at this point in my D&D career say, yeah, let's try it out. No questions. I trust you. Let's play an orc. Let's keep going. Aarakocra is a player character race already, and I know some DMs have problems with allowing like flying player characters at first level. I've never seen that as an issue. I say use more archers or flying enemies. If you're afraid of that, I think Aarakocra are fine. You can be an eagle boy, or you can reflavor it to be a hawk person or a swan person, or I had somebody play a hummingbird person one time. That was neat. That was fun. It's like an Aarakocra and a gnome. Why not? Now up next we have an aboleth, and this is where things get tricky. Aboleths are supposed to be inherently evil. They enslave people with their minds, and they're a sea creature. So here's what I would say to all that. We already allow evil player characters. Now maybe in your game, you say we're going to be good, or neutral, or good. We're not going to be evil. I allow for the possibility of evil characters. I don't typically have a lot of people that take me up on it, but I offer it. So I think if you could play an evil player character that's a human, I don't think it's that far a stretch of the imagination to play a typically evil or even always evil monster race. Now, as far as enslaving people with your mind goes, well, there are player character spells that do that already. To the aboleth, it would just come naturally, I assume. As far as being an underwater being, well, I run a lot of pirate campaigns. My first Pathfinder game was very inspired by One Piece, so there was a lot of water and ship fights involved. So it has to be the right campaign, but if it's the right campaign, I think I'm gonna say S. By the way, some tier lists I do and others do get really granular with like, if I place something to the far left, that means it's high S tier. I'm not gonna do that for this one because there's a lot of monsters. And if I'm saying no, or if I'm saying kinda, or if I'm saying just flat out yes to something, that's what I want to stand out, not where you place number 75th in B tier. So let's keep going. We have 3 angels. I'm gonna kind of group these together because they all kind of accomplish the same archetype. Now, angels are from a plane of existence that is going to supercharge their souls with the good alignment. So you almost have to be good. And I think early ASMRs, whenever they were introduced, you were supposed to be of a good alignment. And my thing about that is, for almost as long as angels have existed in fiction and in myth, the Bible and books before the Bible, the idea of the fallen angel has existed. So there are interesting stories that can be told if you want to play this straight and just be a devout, angel paladin. By the way, well, I'm assuming that for all of these, if you wanted to just play the monster, you could, but I'm probably picturing that, like, we all have player character classes built in. So you could play an angel paladin, a solar paladin, a planetar paladin, a diva paladin, and you're from Mount Celestia or Bitopia, but you've been cast down to the material to work with these mortals or other monsters and orcs and an aboleth for some reason, and you are going to fight evil. Or you can play it that you've been cast down from your celestial plane and you are mad about it, and you're going to, make your way to Avernus and follow the path of Zerial and become fallen and become an Araignée. So I think there's definitely narrative potential there. I could very much see player characters drawn to the idea of playing an angel, and that is why I think all of these can go in S tier. Up next, we have 3 monsters that are also kind of similar. These are animated objects. Now, I, as a DM, I actually have a lot of fun giving out intelligent items and playing intelligent items. So if I can do that and have fun as a DM, I don't see why a player also can't live up that fantasy and play that role. This is a role playing game, by the way. I should mention, we are all playing this game so we can be just a little bit different. Even if you play your characters as sort of an avatar of yourself in the game world, you probably can't pick locks in real life. Well, maybe that's not a great idea. An example, because maybe you can pick locks in real life. I can't. Um, but you know, you're probably not well trained in great swords and full plate. So you know, we are all doing something in D&D that we can't do in real life. I regularly play as female characters, as women, no matter what race I might be, and you know, I don't change gender to perform that character. I'm still me, but I'm taking on the role of a different character. So, can you take on the role of an animated object that might have some limited sentience? Maybe you're following certain commands, but maybe you break free of those commands. You know, we've got the flying carpet in Aladdin. That was a fun character. I could see somebody saying, "What if I want to join the street rat rogue party with a monkey and a genie and a princess, and I want to be the carpet, please?" I would say, "Oh, interesting idea. That sounds fun. Let's try it out." So carpet, definitely S tier. Magic sword, I would say also S tier. The suit of armor, uh, yeah, I would say yes to that. Let's put in S tier. The onkeg, the giant lion ant. Now here's my thing. I do not like bugs. I don't. I'm not like arachnophobic or anything. I just, excuse me. I do have a beverage to keep my throat hydrated and my brain sharp. Because we might be here a while. Uh, You know, I'm just not a fan of buggy things. But other people, they like ants and spiders and cute little crab critters and whatever. So if you came to me and you said, "Jackson, I would like to play an Onkeg barbarian. I would like to burrow through the ground and come up through people's feet and rage on them and scratch them up and eat them with my mandibles," I would say, "All right, neat. Go off, King. Let's put that in S tier." We have an Aesir. Um, this is like a yoked fire genasi, you know, with some crafting skills. You could have like an Azer artificer. I think that's fun. Let's put him in S tier. A banshee. We have our first undead. Now, undead are introduced as a playable character race in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. So you can already play a reborn, and there's a lot of flavor you can do with your reborn. You keep the stats there, but I think it would be easy to say I am an elf maiden or whatever that died, or you can play a boy banshee. Why not? You know, I would like to scream at people and scare them. That is something that I would like to do in your game, Jackson. And I would say, okay, that sounds fun. Go off, Queen. Let's put that in S tier. A basilisk. Now, this is an interesting creature. You want to petrify people, and you want to be a little beastly. I don't see why you can't be a little beastly. A lot of tons of people love playing druids who can wild shape. Now, wild shape is usually just restricted uh, to animals, to the beast type. But you know, if we extended that out a bit and said, well, could you play as a monstrosity? I don't think that's a far stretch. I think if you came to me and you said, "Jackson, I know that I could be a human or an elf or a halfling, but what I would really want to do, what would really make my day, is if I got to play a basilisk in D&D, please. A basilisk bard." I would say, yeah, let's try that out and see what happens. S tier. Bahir is one of my favorite underused monsters in D&D. I certainly like that playing them. I don't see why a player wouldn't like playing them, so let's put him in S tier. A death tyrant. Now this is like an undead aberration mashup. You know, they still get like the eye rays of the beholder. And really, we have all the beholders grouped up here. So there's a lot of different things you can do with beholders. Xanathar is a beholder. I think I have a little, yeah, I got a little Xanathar here that one of my players gave me for Christmas. That's super neat. Yeah. I think somebody could have fun playing a beholder type, and I got a mini for him right here. That's sick. Yeah, if you want to be a beholder in my D&D game, I think that should be allowed. So let's put beholder in S tier. I think if you want to be an undead super beholder, like a death tyrant, yeah, let's see what happens. Um, it would be an interesting sell to be a spectator or a gazer when I'm letting you be a beholder to like downgrade yourself. But here's the thing, some people like playing the underdog. They like playing Merry and Pippin more than they like playing Aragorn and Legolas, and I think that's cool. I've played in a lot of games and ran a lot of games with disparate levels where we roll randomly or we decide through like a point buy system who's going to have higher levels, or maybe somebody has a lower level but they have like higher social class, like they're a noble or a commander in the army or something. There's a lot of cool things you can do. And so I think if you wanted to be a spectator, that is viable. And I'm going to put a spectator in S tier. The blights are all grouped together. I think there's a vine blight and a twig blight and a vine blight, twig blight, bramble blight. And I'm losing some points here. I can't remember the third blight. But anyway, yeah, a lot of people want to be plants. They're plant moms at home, and they think plants are neat and cute. So if you wanted to play as a plant creature in D&D and not just a person with plant magic like a druid, I think you could play a plant. So let's put blights in S tier, right next to the beholder gang. Bugbears are already a player character race. I think that's pretty cool. They're a big hairy goblin that can sneak real good. Let's put them in S tier. A boulette or boulet. I know it's boulet. I like saying boulette. You're a land shark. Maybe people can ride you. You like burrowing around. You can be a cute little armored burrow puppy. I think that's great. I know a lot of people who like boulettes. I think you can be a boulette in my game. Sure. I I don't think Bullywug has been introduced as a player character class. Maybe back in like 3.5 when a lot of things were player character classes. But in 5e, I don't remember them being in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. But if you wanted to be a frog, a lot of people like grungs, and a bullywug is kind of like a bigger grung. Yeah, you could be a bullywug. Let's put bullywug in S tier. A cambion. I like using cambions. They're kind of the perfect mix between a humanoid and a devil or a demon. So especially all of the cambions that are introduced in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes before we got Monsters of the Multiverse. That was my favorite Mordenkainen's book. That is like, I am a cambion of Asmodeus. I am a cambion of Glazia. All really cool. Once again, it's a winged character. Maybe you have some dedicated like fire magic or whatever. That's fine. You're not that much different from a tiefling, and everybody loves tieflings, so I think that goes in S tier. Carrion Crawler. Once again, I hate bugs, but this is not about me. This is about providing a cool game for your players. And incidentally, when my players are having a good time and I can rise to the challenge of giving them a good time on their terms, that kind of winds up being my turns, and I wind up having a good time too. So this one would be tricky for me, but if you came to me and you said, Jackson, I want to play a carrion crawler in your game, I would without hesitation say yes, so I am going to put that in S tier. Centaurs are a playable character race. They were introduced in they were in a few books. I want to say Theros came first. Now, I haven't had anybody play a centaur, which surprises me. I think centaurs are really, really cool. I guess I haven't played a centaur yet, so I'm going against my own argument there. But I think centaurs are really neat. They're basically humanoid, just half horse. So I think that's an easy S tier. A chimera. Now my number one favorite 5th edition D&D monster is the Theron Chimera, whatever, put into the Mythic Odysseys of Theros book, because they actually provide these big stats tables, roll tables for your head is going to be this kind of dragon, or you're a shark, and your body is going to have land-based powers or sea-based powers, and your snake head can have a poison attack. You can really customize and have a lot of fun with a chimera. Look at the I can't think of the character's name, but the chimera in Delicious in Dungeon Meshi that everybody likes. That's awesome. If somebody came to me and said, "I want to be her. Please, can I do that in D&D?" I wouldn't want to yuck their yum by saying, "Well, actually, you can't, but you can play like an elf or a dragonborn." Nah, go for it. Play a chimera. S tier. We got a chul. Um, this kind of reminds me, I think chulls are in Stormlight Archive as like their pack beasts, because they have horses, but in order to get around the rough landscape and the high storms. I'm going on a tangent. Anyway, crab people are neat for some people, and if you want to play a big old crab, I would say yes to that. I'm gonna put that in S tier. A cloaker. You're a big flying manta ray thing. I have to be honest, I've used most monsters on this list over my 10 years. I don't think I've ever used a cloaker. I don't really get the appeal, but just because I don't get the appeal doesn't mean that somebody else wouldn't. So if you came to me and said, "I would like to play this freaky manta ray thing," yeah, let's see what happens. A cockatrice, you're a funny little chicken that turns people to stone. Yeah, not indefinitely, like a temporary turn people to stone, whatever. We're not as focused on mechanics here quite yet. We're more focused on the narrative right now. What's your character concept? What is fun to you? What kind of story can we evoke from this? And I think you can be a fun little chicken sidekick, or chicken main character. It seems like some kind of Pixar main character. That could be fun. Alan Tudyk had a lot of fun voicing that chicken in the Moana movies. Why can't you have fun playing a fun little chicken guy in my D&D game? I would say yes to this, so I think we'll put it in S tier. Coatl. I think coatls are a lot of fun. We have kind of a celestial creature, but with a beastly aspect. Yeah, S tier. A crawling claw. Well, that's just it was a character in the Addams Family, and I think that's a good, like, small dark fantasy basis for kind of a gateway into D&D and fantasy stuff. So if somebody said, I don't want to be Wednesday, I don't want to be the Frankenstein guy, I want to be the Hand, actually. Okay, sure. Let's see what happens if you play an undead hand. S tier. A Cyclops. Now, there's a lot of giants, and we'll get to more of the giants later. We already have Goliaths as a player character race. They were around and they were introduced in Volos, and then in the 2024 book, they became a bigger deal, and they have lots of different powers based on their place in the Ordning. And Cyclops, I don't think is a Goliath, but I don't see why you couldn't be a one-eyed Goliath, and then let's just amp you up to larger, huge size and have you play a Cyclops. Now, being larger, huge size is going to run into some issues when you try to go to the tavern or go into a lot of dungeons, but that's very adaptable. Like I said, I've run very One Piece heavy pirate campaigns where you never walk into a dungeon or a ruin. So it's possible to just never have to go underground. Now you can still run dungeons that is like a shipwreck, a tower, a lost castle that is not literally an underground space built for small people and humanoids to go through. So I think if somebody wanted to play a Cyclops, I would say yes. I'm putting them in S tier. A Dark Mantle. Freaky little squid thing. Some people go crazy for octopuses and squids and stuff. So if you want a fantasy spin on that can shoot out some black ink, like the darkness spell, Drow can do that. Why not a freaky little squid thing? Let's go ahead and put them up in S tier. Now we have a Death Knight. This is another undead. I've already talked about Reborn. A Death Knight is like a high tier kind of monster though. You got Lord Soth is a big deal. big piece of lore in D&D canon. Now, the D&D canon is actually interesting to me because while there's all these, novels and Gary Gygax's games that have entered into the lore and stuff, that's all very cool. It's good reading, it's good background for this, but the 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide sets up in its opening chapters, kind of encouraging you to build your own world. We've got Planescape now, and even before then, we've got Spelljammer, we've got Theros and Ravnica, and you can go to Greyhawk instead of the Forgotten Realms. Uh, you can run whole campaigns in Avernus or the Shadowfell or Out of the Abyss. So you can go to a lot of different places. You don't have to stick to the D&D canon. So anyway, can you play a Death Knight? Pretty strong. I got to run this in Borca, and it was an amazing fight. If you wanted to come up and play just a Master of Undeath in our campaign, yeah, all right, I could see some juicy storytelling coming from that. I want to see what you're cooking up. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I'm going to put that in S tier. A Demi-Lich. This is cool. So you're a floating head that's kind of immortal from undeath, kind of not. You can do some cool wacky spells, life draining. But we're looking at player character classes. So you want to be a Demi-Lich sorcerer or a Demi-Lich fighter, and you're like controlling the sword with your mind or something. There's just a lot of cool things that can happen. Demi-Liches are kind of neat, and if you said I want to play a Demi-Lich because they're kind of neat and I just want to be one, please, I think I would say yes. So we're gonna put that in S tier. A Baelor. What if somebody's seen Lord of the Rings, read Lord of the Rings, and instead of wanting to be Gimli, they say I think the Balrog was kind of the most dope shit in there, and I want to be that, please. I would say, interesting angle. Let's see what happens. S tier. A Barlgura, a Gorilla demon. Well, we got a bunch of demons here. Now, I talked about this with the angels. Demons are from the abyss. Their souls have been changed and they are bound to chaotic evil. But the angels, they can fall. Maybe a demon, they can rise. Maybe you want to play it straight and you just want to be chaotic evil. I've played with chaotic evil player characters. I'm sure you have too. People who just want random destruction and burn things down. That happened a lot with the kids' games. There were a lot of kids who really liked fire and didn't understand the consequences, or perfectly understood the consequences and wanted to set my town in fire. That's probably the more likely thing. So, for all these demon characters, I'm just going to go ahead and say, if you want to play a demon, I think there's something valid there, and I'm going to put Barlgura in S tier. The Chasme, I think, is in S tier. It's another bug, but not my thing, but it could be yours. A Dretch. Again, you want to play as the lowest of the demons. That's, something could happen there. Glabrazu, our crabby boy. Sure, play a crab boy. Goristro. Yeah, why not? I'm actually drawing a blank on the name of the frog. Hezru. Sure, some people like frogs, like the grungs and the bullywugs. So if you want to play that, but like a demon, play a Hezru. Yeah, sure. S tier. This is a mains. I think that might actually be lower than the Dretch. Merilith. Lots of people love snaky things. Who wouldn't want to be a snake lady with 8 arms or 6 arms or whatever? I think it's 8. Let's put her in S tier too. That's really cool. Now Thejni, weird pig with wings. Not my thing. Could be yours. Let's see what happens. Let's put her in S tier. Quasit. Quasits are already a familiar that you can have, as a warlock. So if you want to say, I don't want to be the warlock, I want to be the familiar. Maybe you're even, you pair up with a buddy player and you come to me and we're like, he's going to be the warlock, I'm going to be the familiar, we're going to have a good time. And I'm like, okay, that's less creatures I have to keep track of. Yeah, be a Quasit. Do you want to take character levels? And you're like, yeah, I want to be a Quasit Rogue. I'm like, cool. Do you want to be an Arcane Trickster? And you're like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, sweet, that tracks perfectly. Play your Quasit Arcane Trickster Rogue. Shadow Demon. Everybody loves an edgy, well, not everybody loves an edgy character, but everybody has experienced an edgy character. Why not play a Shadow Demon? Let's put them in S tier. Vrock, freaky bird thing. People like birds. Play a bird. Fight like a crow. S tier. A Yocklaw. A I have a player that has brought up Yocklaws as a DM and brought up Yocklaws as a player when I offer a story point or an opportunity to like, hey guys, what's an NPC that should be here? They're like, ooh, can it be a Yocklaw? I'm pretty sure if I said, hey, would anyone at this table happen to want to play a Yocklaw? They were like, I can do that, and it would make their day. So why would I not want to make their day as a DM? Let's put them definitely up in S tier. Let's see, we're a spined. Oh, we're on to devils now. A spined devil. No, the spine devil is the flyer, the flying one. This is a barbed devil. You're just a really pointy guy. You're a porcupine and devil thing. Yeah, okay, sure. Sell me on it. Let's go for S. Bearded devil. Definitely for your martial classes, or go outside the range of what's in the lore. We're not beholden to the D&D canon, and even the D&D books say that. So play a bearded devil that wants to be a wizard someday. Go off, S tier. Bone devils are great. I love bone devils. Who doesn't want to be a bone devil? Let's put them in S tier. Chain devils, also really cool. Kind of a Hellraiser thing going on. I think if somebody came to me and they said, I've never played D&D, Jackson, but I'm a big horror fan. Hellraiser, my favorite series of movies. Can I play Hellraiser? Can I play Pinhead? And I'm like, yeah, you can play Pinhead. Let's check out this Chain Devil and see what we can do with that. Let's go S tier for that. Erinyes, I already talked about Fallen Angels. Here she is. Or here he is. Or here they are. Your extraplanar beings don't have to follow the gender binary. Some of them explicitly don't, like the succubi incubi can freely change form. Anyway, let's go to the Horn Devil. This is kind of like the iconic devil to me. Oh, sorry, we're getting full up over here. I'm gonna have to scroll down so we can see. But I think this one is S tier. The Ice Devil, another bug. There are more bugs than I thought there were in the monster manual. Yeah, some people like icy things. Let's put them in S tier. An imp. People love playing imps. It's great. I had a little one shot that had like Game of Thrones inspired characters, but I kind of had fun with them. Instead of having the imp be Tyrion Lannister, uh, as a human who's short or a halfling or whatever. I said he's just literally the imp. He's an imp. And I gave them imp stats, and the player had a ton of fun with it. It was great. So I've already said yes to this. I would say yes to it again. Let's put them in S tier. A Lemure? You're a pile of burning, oozing flesh? I'm not here to yuck your yum. Yeah, you want to play a Lemure? S tier. Pit Fiend. It's like the lawful evil version of a Baylor. That's cool. Be a Pit Fiend. S tier. Spine Devil. You're flying. You shoot spines. You got a rad pitchfork. Yeah, I'll let you do that. S tier. Oh, we're on to dinosaurs. Yeah, this is an underwater dinosaur. Now, dinosaurs, people find dinosaurs really cool. Some people do. I don't, but other people do. You could have fun with a Land Before Time one shot where everybody plays as a different kind of dinosaur. Your Littlefoot the cleric. I think that would be a good time. Maybe not actually for kids now, but like I could run that for a bunch of adults who were 90s kids and watch those movies. It'd be fun. Yeah, you come to me and you want to be a dinosaur, I'd let you do it. S tier. Displacer beasts. People love displacer beasts. They're awesome. Yeah, easy S tier. Doppelganger. We already have changelings. I think it's only one step beyond to say, I want to be a doppelganger. You could even just use the changeling stats, and flavor is free, y'all. You can say, I'm using the changeling stats, but I want to be a doppelganger. I am using the reborn stats, but I want to be a former Death Lord that is trying to regain his glory. Sure, why not? Let's put you in S tier. Ooh, we're on to dragons, and our first one is the Draco Lich. I've already said yes to a Demi-Lich. Spoiler, I think playing dragons is really, really cool. I think that a lot, more people than you would think have heard of Dungeons and Dragons, and then they ask me, so I can be a dragon? And in the past, I have said, well, I can be a dragonborn. And they're like, what's that? And thankfully, if they haven't played Skyrim, their imaginations are open to being like a dragon person. If they have played Skyrim, then they're like, oh, I can be the rad Norse person and shout at my enemies. And I'm like, yeah, let's make you a barbarian. That works too. Anyway, so do you want to be a Draco Lich, an undead dragon thing? Yeah, that's metal as hell. Let's let you do that. Let's put you in S tier. And all of these dragons, I think, just like the Littlefoot campaign, the Land Before Time one-shot, I think you could run a one-shot or a short campaign or a long campaign where everyone is playing as a different kind of dragon. You get different breaths, different spells, maybe different alignments. You're trying to work together to save this plane, or you're going into the Fizzbands book and you're really playing around with the different like dragon echoes. You're traveling across the plains to try to find your hordes and your echoes and complete yourself. There's a lot of narratives that you can do with dragons. You can run a horde, a home-based campaign where you are 5 dragons working together to build your own mega lair. That's awesome. You could play a party as Tiamat, and everyone plays a different head. That's awesome. I think all the dragons get to go in S tier. And if you wanted to play like a wormling or a young dragon or a young adult, that's all fine too. But I'm saying yes to an ancient dragon. I'm saying yes to the wormlings. Do what you want. If you're gonna have a good time in my game, that is enough reward for me as a Jackson. The Shadow Dragon, that's just like the edgelord version of a dragon. So I don't see, if you're allowing edgelord, vengeance paladins, and rogues and stuff in your campaign, I don't see why we can't say yes to a Shadow Dragon. We got some more dragons. We got a dragon turtle. Yeah, sure. Why not? I was going to say I think you would have to play in a sea campaign, but I actually think that dragon turtles have the amphibious quality in their stat block. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but yeah, I think, you can play a dragon turtle. Yeah, sure. We got a white dragon. All right, we're done with dragons. S tier. Driders. People like Drow. If you're into Drow lore, and I mean the canon Drow lore, the Minzo Baron Zan, matriarchy, Yolf and Lolth and all that. I think it's just one extra step to say, I like playing a drow. Could I be a drider, please? Yeah, okay. Driders are neat. Let's let you play a drider. Dryads, I said that plants were cool with blights. Dryads are more humanoid than a blight, but they offer an interesting stipulation if you follow the lore, and you don't have to follow the lore, that they are kind of bound to a tree. They can't leave within X miles or feet, however you want to play it, from their tree. And that could be a limitation that could bring them down into, say, C tier, except that, like, there are home-based campaigns. There are tower defense campaigns and, base things where you're building a tavern or your stronghold. So I think there's a lot of ways where if somebody told me, Jackson, what I really want to be in D&D is a dryad, I think I could make that work. I know I can make that work. I am confident I can make that work. Dwergar are already a player character race that I would allow. Elementals. We have Genasi. I think they were introduced in like what's it called? Like the Elemental Evil or Princes of the Apocalypse campaign, one of those. And then we saw them again in Wildmount, and then they were made fully multiverse official in Mordenkainen's monsters of the multiverse. So we can play Genasi. What if we can play, you play a half elementals? What if we can play full elementals? An example of this is like Calcifer in Howl's Moving Castle. Who doesn't love Calcifer? May all your bacon burn. Yeah, if you want to play a fire and elemental, I would say yes to that. You want to play an earth elemental, I would say yes to that. Wind elemental, I would say yes to that. And water elemental, I would say yes to that. Let's see what happens. Drow are already a player character race. They have been since the first 2014 player handbook. That's easy. An Empyrean is just an especially jacked Asamar. So I don't see why we can't play an Empyrean. An Ettercat, well, add that to the bug counter. Take a shot every time Jackson talks about a bug. They're a weird, like, alien bug thing that traps people. I've actually ran an Ettercat. I was squeamish the whole time that I'm the one playing this weird little alien bug critter. But, they can be fun, and if they can be fun and a player wants to play an Ettercat, I would say yes. So I'm going to put them in S tier. An Etten. Now, playing a two-headed monster is an interesting challenge to play off those dual personalities. Again, you could do the Tiamat thing I mentioned and just have two different characters players play as the different heads, and that could be fun. But I think it's also okay if you, the DM, can play as a two-headed monster. Your player can play as a two-headed monster, or a human with split personalities. That's been done before. Why not play a two-headed giant? Let's put them in S tier. I've approved dragons and fairies are a player character race in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, so why would you not want to be a cute little fairy dragon or a devious little fairy dragon? You can be devious and cute. So let's put them in S tier. A flame skull, yeah, it's kind of like the Demilich, but you just love fire. Yeah, why not? Lots of player characters, humans and halflings and tieflings just love fire. They want to get fireball as quickly as they can and spam it as much as they can. So if you wanted to be a laughing, flaming undead skull while doing that, I think that's cool. I'd say yes, S tier. A flumph. Flumps are so fun. I've had kids ask me if they could play flumps, and I didn't know what to say. And now, as a possibly more mature human being, I'd say, yeah, play a flump. Let's do it. Play your barbarian flump, your cleric flump, your warlock flump. Fomorian. We have another giant. This time with a fey angle. You get an evil eye. That could be interesting. Maybe you want revenge against the Fae for what they did to you. Maybe you want to do something about your evil eye. You want to make a good eye. Or do you want to go for neutrality and try to find peace between your people and the Eladrin that banished you? These are interesting narratives. I think arguably far more interesting than saying I am a human ranger in the tavern waiting for my next grave to rob. Let's put them in S tier. Galeb Dur, you're a little rock guy. Okay, you're a big rock guy, but you're a rock guy. Look at this Galeb Dur. They're cool. Galeb Dur. Gargoyles. Well, we have a whole Disney show about how you can be different kinds of gargoyles. That was a whole party of gargoyles. Run a gargoyles one shot in modern New York City. Why not? S tier, instant S tier. We have all of our different genies. We got, let's see, it's like the Dao, the Jin, the Freedy, and the Marid. I think Marid is the one that I've never found an excuse to run, but I've had the other three going. Same as the elementals, but these are a little more humanoid. They have their own politics of the outer realms going on. So let's put them in S tier. There's cool stuff you can do with that. Ghost is up next. It's another undead. It's another flavor of a reborn, or just playing a ghost. There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot of stories about people that have died and gone beyond death, people trying to finish something that they never got to in life. Why not experience that and play it out in your fantasy role-playing game? Why could you not take on that role to play? I ask you. Or rather, I ask myself, because this tier list is ultimately about what I say yes to, and you can choose something different in your game. Do what you want. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying what I would do, and hopefully that opens up the possibilities for some of y'all out there. So I say Ghost is in S tier. A ghoul. Charlie Kelly from Always Sunny would want to play a ghoul. Let's put him in S tier. We have all our giants. Giants are kind of fun. Now I have a problem with giant stat blocks. I think the Big B's giant book that I don't own back here. You can't see it, but there's my D&D and etc. shelf right there, plus a bunch of books there on Roll20 and whatnot. Anyway, I don't have Big B's, but from what I understand, they really expand on what your giants can do, the ordning, the giant politics, the giant spells, some giant subclasses. So yeah, absolutely, I would say yes to you playing any giant without hesitation. Let's put them all in S tier. Even the hill giant, kind of the lowest of the ordning. Just a hungry boy. Why not? A gibbering mouther. Now, you're going to have a communication issue as a gibbering mouther, because you're always and potentially driving people crazy with your blabbering. But hear me out. Kinku are a player character race that were introduced in Volo's Guide to Monster, and lots of people like playing Kinkus, and all they can do is mimic sounds and noises of other players, and people have lots of fun with that. So I think you could have a lot of fun being a gibbering mouther, and if you said, Jackson, I want to play this in your game, I would say, interesting, you have my attention, let's see what happens. Gith Yonki and Gith Zerai, the Gith, are already player character races that are only more popular now that we have Lysel from Baldur's Gate 3. Let's put them in S tier. Gnolls. I actually had a player recently ask me if they could play a Gnoll, because they remembered them being a player character race in, I want to say 3.5 or 4, probably 3.5. They may have made it to 4 too. Anyway, they haven't been introduced as a player character race in 5e. They might be reclassified as demons now, which would make sense, because like they're humanoid, but they're humanoids whose minds have been altered by Yinagu, the demon lord. They always have this ferocious hunger, and that's scary. That can be intimidating as a DM. But I have also had and heard about characters who are, human barbarian cannibals, because it's usually the player's first time and they've heard that chaotic evil exists, so they want to play a wild and crazy cannibal for the lulz. So, like, if you would say yes to the insatiably hungry, chaotic evil cannibal, why not say yes to an insatiably hungry, chaotic evil hyena person? Why not? Let's put the Gnoll in S tier. The Sverfneblin, or Deep Gnome, is already a playable character race. The Goblin is a playable character race. Now, I hear some debate about whether goblins should be people. Their minds are, similarly, their sentience is dictated by the god Magubliet. And they just want to run around and destroy stuff and steal things and get shinies, and you don't have to run the Magubliet angle. Goblins and hobgoblins and bugbears are very different on the plane of Eberron, and they can be very different in your plane. So lots of people like playing goblins. I think more so from the Pathfinder art that is very endearing. But if you wanted to play a goblin in D&D as a player character, I would let you. I would put them in, let's say, S tier. The golems. We already have Warforged, similar to like the Cambions. I think it's only one step removed if you're saying yes to a Warforged, which some people don't. Some people don't like Warforged, but I've met a lot of players, and especially a lot of kids, that are really drawn to playing Warforged. So I think a different flavor on Warforged is a clay golem or an iron golem or a stone golem. Now a flesh golem is still classified as a construct, but they're like an undead construct, but that's just Frankenstein. Frankenstein is a very cool literary figure that you can do a lot of cool things with. I think that all the golems should go in S tier. And by the way, there's some cultural some cultural things to step around with golems. They're important to Jewish heritage and Jewish mythology. So I think you could work within that and make a respectful depiction. Work with the player to make that interesting and respectful. So there is that, but I would still say S tier. A Gorgon, not to be confused with the Medusa, we'll get to those later. You want to be a crazy metal bull that petrifies people? Yeah, why not? Okay. S tier. Cool. Grells and Breaks, these are delightfully weird monsters. I've used both of them as usually random dungeon enemies. They can be a lot of fun as a player character, though. There's something there. There's something there that you could really work with, especially if you start adding spells or martial abilities on top of them. You want to be a battle master Grick that's really good at grappling people with your weird mandible beak thing. Sure, S tier. S tier for Grell. Griffins are iconic. I love Dragon Age, and Dragon Age the Veilguard, for all the bad things that people say about Veilguard, introduced us to the Griffin sidekick, Asan. And what if you wanted to play as not Davrin, but Asan, the Griffin, in my D&D game? I would say that's really interesting and really cool. I liked Asan a lot. He was one of my favorite things in Veilguard. I would let you play a Griffin in my game. A Grimlock? I think that's what they're calling. I think this is a relic from like the Time Machine book. You can play Grimlock. We have Dwergar and Drow. Why not be a Grimlock? Sure, S tier if that's what you want. Hags. Hags are really neat. We have a Hagblood, Hexblood that was introduced in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. So I think it's easy to say I would like to play a hag. And hags can be whatever gender you want. They don't have to be, evil witchy women that plays off some strange stereotypes from history that got a lot of women burned and killed in horrible ways for essentially just being women. But maybe if you want to play out that feminine rage and that historical aspect, there's something there. I think that's quite cool. I think you can play that. A half dragon is, let's face it, just a dragonborn by another name, and everybody likes dragonborn, so let's put them in S tier. A harpy, what comes to mind is Monet from One Piece. I know y'all won't know that, but that's a really neat character. I would love to see somebody play a harpy in D&D. That's awesome. Let's put her in S tier. Hellhound. Now, I've already approved a bunch of devils from hell. So the question with a hellhound is not, can you play an evil fire being? It's, can you play a doggo? And I think that yes, you can play doggo. You can play a pupper, or a borf, or a boof. I would allow that in my D&D game if you want to play a pupper. So why not play a hell pupper? Let's put the hell pup in S tier. Helmed Horror is kind of just an extra magical Warforged with some spell resistance. That can be really neat. I can see a player character having a lot of fun with kind of like picking what spells they're immune to. You can do something neat with this. Let's put Helmed Horror in S tier. Hippogriff, people like Buckbeak from Harry Potter. That was certainly my exposure to hippogriffs. I think they're like Greek in origin. You could do something and go deeper with hippogriffs and kind of be a boon to your humanoid companions by letting them ride on you, whatever, or try to assert your independence as a hippogriff and say, I shall not be ridden. I shall take up levels as a multi-class paladin warlock. Thank you, sir, and I would put that in S tier. Hobgoblins are already a player character race. Homunculus. I've already approved several familiars. Actually, as I say that, I'm not sure if homunculus is I think it's a like higher level spell you can cast, but not a familiar. But you can play a homunculus. I don't see why not. Let's put that in S tier. Hook horrors. This might be my least favorite D&D monster from the 2014 Monster Manual. Hook horror just sounds cool. And then you see this image and it's this weird little purple dude. I don't get it. I don't get it. Their stats are kind of boring. It's kind of like I got a bunch of hit points and I do some basic little piercing damage with my hooks. But like we played the Quiet Year one time and we were drawing on the map and stuff, and I handed out monster manuals so that the players could like look at the monster manual and say, I want this dragon to be over here on this mountain. And I would say, cool, all right, let's make a project for that or whatever. Quiet Year is fun. Anyway, and I had a guy that said, hook horror, this guy's dope. Let's have a tunnel full of hook horrors over here. And I was like, all right, that's the first time I've ever seen anybody excited about a hook horror. But if that guy wanted to play a hook horror in my game, I'd say yeah. Let's put him in S tier. A Hydra. I love Hydras. Hydras are awesome. Let's put them in S tier. Intellect Devourers are, an iconic D&D monster. They were in the D&D movie with Chris Pine very briefly, but you can do fun things with an Intellect Devourer, I think. Let's put them in S tier. An Invisible Stalker. Yeah, why not? We already have player characters that can specialize in turning invisible and dealing lots of sneak attack damage. So why not take that to its logical extreme and play an elemental that is invisible and kills people? Sure, that could be really fun. Let's put them in S tier. Jackalware. This is essentially a lycanthrope race. They're pretty humanoid. They might actually be classified as a humanoid. Let's put them in S tier. Kinku art. I've already talked about Kinku. People love Kinku. Let's put them in S tier. People love kobolds. These cute little dragon dudes. Yeah, I love kobolds. People can play kobolds. I find it interesting that the Japanese version of a kobold is actually like a dog person. And I already said like hyenas or gnolls are fine and hellhounds are fine, so why not play a kobold by whatever interpretation you see fit? I love when players get to insert their flavor and their interpretations and what they find cool about their media or their history that they want to see in fantasy, and they put that into their D&D game. That is very fun for me. I get to learn something new, not only about the world and some book or movie or show that I haven't seen before, but, something that's cool to this person. And now I get to play that out with them and have fun with it and riff on it and improvise. That's very cool. Kobold is an easy S tier. Let's put them in S tier. I have kind of a cutoff image here. I am desperately trying to see what this is, and I can't. So I'm gonna grab my actual monster manual. I'm so sorry. This is like bad content and dead air and whatever. Although I regularly tell people it's a fun idea to go ahead and use the speed up button that YouTube offers. I don't always talk the fastest, especially now. I'm a little tired. I've had a full day of work. I woke up really early this morning and I was working on another Simbaroom script. Simbaroom's been really fun. It's been going really well. I might have to share some stories about how, what actually is happening in my Simbaroom games, because I've been talking about the mechanics, but I think the stories that you get to tell. Oh, I found it. It's a kraken. A kraken? Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to play a kraken, that'd be incredible. S tier. Yeah, why not? All right, Kuo-toa. Now this is getting into some Lovecraftian stuff, and Lovecraft has some baggage behind him, for sure. He was extremely xenophobic, and that really intertwines itself into the fiction, and we see that with races like the Kuo-toa. However, Lovecraft did try to apologize and mend his ways late in his life, kind of on his deathbed. His fiction still exists as an inspiration to horror media, that you can, death of the author can do a lot of things for you. And if somebody came to me and they said, I want to be a weird fish person that has some weird hangups about their like eldritch gods, and maybe they want to play that straight, maybe they want to break away from that. I know I keep bringing that up, but like that is a common character theme for our humanoid characters, is do I follow the path that has been set out for me and face the challenges that are implied along that path, or do I try to break from that path and see what it brings me? There's a lot of fiction and a lot of introspection and a lot of character and role-playing that can come from either direction or some combination on the spectrum that you choose. So if somebody came to me and they said, I want to play a weird little Lovecraft fish dude, and here's why, I would say no more. I will see your explanation in play. I trust you implicitly. Kuo-toa, go in S tier. The Lamia is up next. I have trouble understanding Lamia. They're basically centaurs, but like with some extra magical and evil implications. But this is all to say, I allow centaurs. I think centaurs are cool. If you think Lamias are cool, I think they're still in S tier. Liches are iconic, and every lich was at some point a mortal who wanted more power and went about it the wrong way. Or they went about it the right way in their mind, more right than anyone around them. What is right? What is wrong? What is good? What is evil? What is going too far? Can they change their ways? Do their ways need to be changed? Was there a purpose for their lichdom? These are all very interesting narrative angles. And if you're a player that doesn't want any of that interesting narrative crap, and you just want to say, Jackson, D&D is for beer and pretzels and rolling dice and doing dope shit, and I want to play a lich because liches are cool, I'll say, you're on. Let's do it. Lich up. S tier. Up next, we have lizard folk. Lizard folk are player character race. I would allow it. Lycanthropes. We got the werebear, the wereboar, the were-rat, the were-tiger, and of course the werewolf. You can be a lycanthrope, straight up. It's in the monster manual. Your player character can be a lycanthrope. We have a lycanthrope in Critical Role now. It's canon. You can play a lycanthrope. These are all easy S tiers, so let's put them all in S tier next to each other. A magman. It's a funny little fire guy. It's like a halfling in a fire genasi. Why not S tier? Manticore are classic monsters. I think they're really cool. I've used them, especially in Theros. Why not play as a Manticore? Let's put them in S tier. A Medusa. I was actually kind of surprised that when the Ravnica book came out, because Ravnica has a lot of Medusa cards. Vraska is one of my favorite like Magic the Gathering characters, and what if you wanted to play Vraska or some lower level Medusa in Ravnica or wherever? It's a multiverse, baby. Do what you want. I'd let you play a Medusa. That'd be sick. Let's see what happens. S tier. We got Mephits. Now, I'm going to brag here. A lot of people don't know that Mephits are a thing. I meet a lot of D&D veterans who have never seen a Mephit, because no DMs ever want to use a Mephit. They're not really in like published adventures. They're just weird little elemental creatures. They don't even follow the basic elements that we know. We've got the dust Mephit, the ice Mephit, the lava Mephit, the mud Mephit, the smoke Mephit, and the mist Mephit. They're all interesting flavors and combinations of the elements, and I love them. They're so fun. Look at the art. I gotta praise the art on this one, because they're just so evocative. They look like they're having so much fun with whatever dastardly thing they're gonna do, or they're not doing anything dastardly. They're just having a good time being a dusty boy, a dusty, dirty boy. What if you wanted to come in my game and play a dirt boy? Yeah, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. Let's put them in S tier. All the methods get to go together in S tier. We're knocking out six monsters in under a minute. Let's see what happens. We're an hour in. If you're watching this at full speed, then thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And it's weird that you appreciate me, but I accept it. Thank you. We've got Marrow and mermaids, or merfolk, excuse me. You can be whatever gender and be a merfolk. Yeah, like people like mermaids. Why not be a merfolk or a nasty marrow or a good marrow? This is an easy S tier, especially for a nautical campaign. But even if you're not in a nautical campaign, maybe you want to play the, I mean, come on, fish out of water trope. It's right there. Why not play them? Merfolk and Marrow get S tier. Mimics are iconic D&D monsters. Everybody loves mimics. DMs love being mimics and playing mimics. We got different kinds of mimics. We got juvenile mimics and mimic. What is it in Tasha's mimic colonies? Yeah, play a party of mimics. Have challenge everyone to see what kind of people they can mimic. Have your DM put out a bunch of player characters who are raiding their dungeon and see how the players get to outsmart you with their shape-shifting and their adhesive stuff and their weird little tongue attacks. Yeah, play a mimic in D&D. I bet you'll have fun. Let's put mimics in S tier. All right. This is a big one. Because Baldur's Gate 3 is, I don't know if you guys know, but Baldur's Gate 3 is a big deal. And Mind Flayers are a big deal in Baldur's Gate 3. I am going to make the prediction right now that I'll say within the next year, 2025, early 2026, we are going to see a supplement from Wizards of the Coast, an official supplement that says you may play as a Mind Flayer or a half Mind Flayer, because Baldur's Gate 3 showed everybody what Mind Flayers were, and people thought the Mind Flayers were cool. You can have a bad ending where you wind up being a Mind Flayer. Spoiler alert for a game that offers you a ton of options and just explores the wild possibilities of D&D, but like that is an option that can happen. You can be a Mind Flayer. You can also bone a Mind Flayer, and I've had people come to me, and I've seen on Tumblr where people are really excited about getting to bone the tentacle boys. They love them some Davy Jones. So why not play as a Mind Flayer? Well, they're inherently evil. They gotta eat brains to live. So, can you play a Mind Flayer? But here's the thing. You can play a player character. You can play a human who is a wizard who uses psychic damage, like Synaptic Static and Tasha's Mind Whip and stuff like that, to very evil effects. You can dominate your foes. You can say, after you kill them, that you're going to use a little Speak with Dead, or you're just going to dissect their brains to get whatever lore from them you can, directly from the source, to feed your own power and your own spellbook. If that is an evil character that you can play, that other DMs would say yes to, who am I to say no to you wanting to play Davy Jones, the Mind Flayer, Warlock? Mind Flayers are in S tier. Minotaurs are already a player character race. They were introduced in Theros. Actually, I think they were in Ravnica before they were in Theros, interestingly enough. Now, monster Minotaurs in the Monster Manual are large-sized. Ravnica and Theros made them medium-sized. I would say if you want to be a big, beefy boy, get it? Beefy? I'm taking this tier list very seriously, but I can still have some fun. So he's a big, beefy boy, because he's a cow. Okay. Sorry, explaining my own joke. Look, he's an S tier. We got monodrones, duodrones, tridrones, quadrones, pentadrones, all the weird little SpongeBob. I'm sorry, let me scroll down. All the weird little SpongeBob minion characters. I never liked this art. I never liked that the quintessential extraplanar beings from Mechanus, the lawful neutral plane, are just these funny little comical guys. But a lot of people like this art. A lot of people like, being a weird little techno minion. So if you wanted to be any of these characters, I would say they're an S tier. I would say yes. S tier is yes tier. A mummy is an iconic monster of horror, an iconic monster of D&D. If you wanted to play a mummy, that is dope. S tier. Myconids, people love plants, people love mushrooms, people love doing mushrooms while they play D&D. Why not play a myconid? S tier. Nagas. I love snakes. I like snakes in my D&D games. I like Yuan-Ti and Nagas. I would play a Naga. I would let you play a Naga. We got the Bone Naga. We got the Guardian Naga. We got the Spirit Naga, and they're all S tier. We got a Nightmare. Now, kind of like the Hellhound, the question is not really can you play an evil, flaming monster from hell or from the abyss or Gehenna or wherever, because I think nightmares are one of the neutral evil fiends that can be from wherever. The question is, Jackson, can I play a horse? And I would say, yes. You like Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. You like My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. You like Shadowfax, Steed of Gandalf. And you would like to play as Shadowfax. I would not say no to this. S tier. The Nothic. This is another, not frequently used monster, but one of my fondest memories from my early D&D days when I jumped ship from Pathfinder and tried out D&D 5th edition was the Nothic. It's a very good monster. Its eye looks into your soul and sees your darkest secrets or whatever. It's a very cool monster, and I think it could be a very cool player character, and that's why I think they belong in S tier. We've got half ogres and ogres. I've already approved a lot of giants, so I'll cut this short. I think they're an S tier. The Oni is just a souped up version. And Onis, we've got some Onis that are from One Piece. Onis are very cool. They're inherently magical. They got some cold stuff they can do. I think Onis are very neat, and they're an S tier. All right, we have come to the oozes. Oozes are very interesting. They're very iconic D&D, very cool to fantasy, and especially, actual dungeon lore. And I think that if you want to play an ooze, you're going to have some challenges because oozes don't have the most sentience. They don't have the most brain power. But maybe your ooze does. Maybe your ooze doesn't. Some players like to sit back and be a part of things, but not necessarily be the face of the party or be involved in the politics and the funny voices. I've played with more than a few players who I kind of worry about and say like, "Hey man, are you having a good time in the game? You're always quiet." And then when I say that, those are the ones who are like, "Oh dude, I was having a great time. It was incredible." So if you can be kind of a more passive, we'll say, player, you're there to listen and learn and do your thing when it's your turn, but otherwise you can kind of stay out of things and not be the biggest part. I think you could find a role as an ooze. And we do have plasmoids that were introduced in Spelljammer. So I think it's not that much of a stretch to play a black pudding or a gelatinous cube or a gray ooze or an ochre jelly. I think these are all possible. And after all, we have slime girls in anime. Then again, all of these monsters can be anime girls, but that's a different tier list. Bottom line is these are all going in S tier. This is where Orc would be. I already put Orc in S tier. Orogs are basically our Uruk High supplement, kind of like the Baylor is a Balrog by another name, so we don't get sued. So I think Orogs are definitely an S tier. If you can play an Orc or a half Orc, you can play an Orog, an Ultiug, or however you say that. I don't know how to describe an OTU. It's a very unique D&D monster. Now we kind of see an OTU in the start of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which, by the way, the D&D movie with Chris Pine and all them got some flack, and something that I kept hearing was like, it's too Marvel. It's too like Guardians of the Galaxy. Nay, nay, nay. Guardians of the Galaxy is a Dungeons and Dragons movie in space with Marvel characters. Anyway, sorry, that's something else. But an Otheog, very weird, very cool, very stinky. If you wanted to play one, I would let you cook. Let's see what happens. An owlbear, easy S tier. Come on. A Pegasus. You got the Pegasus from Hercules. That's awesome. I'll let you play Shadowfax. I'll let you play a Nightmare, a Flaming Nightmare. Why wouldn't I let you play a Pegasus? Let's get you up there. Periton. I've had Peritons. They can be pretty cool. Peritons are neat. If you wanted to play a Periton, maybe not the most popular choice, but you don't have to be popular to like the thing that you like, to want to play the role of your idea, your concept. This is your fantasy game that exists for you and your DM and your friends. So if you wanted to play a Periton in my game, I want to see what that looks like. Let's put that in S tier. We've got a Piercer. This is a low-level dungeon monster that usually does one trick. It's just like, the Piercer fell on you and now it's on your shoulder. What you gonna do? What if we can do more? What if that's all you do? People love Goblin Slayer, and all he does is slay goblins. What if all you do is fall on people and pierce them? That can be a character. Let's put them in S tier. A pixie. I love pixies. I love this art. My most recent character that I have played in D&D. I'm like a forever DM. At least 95% of my game's time in the past 10 years has been running D&D and not playing D&D. But my last character that I played was a mastermind rogue fairy race from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and I just played her as a pixie. So you can do that, S tier. A pseudo dragon. I've already said you can play familiars, so you can play a pseudo dragon. A purple worm. Iconic D&D monster. Playing the hits. Now, I had a big video that I didn't expect would take off, but it's somehow my #1 video, and it's going through all the League of Legends characters and giving them D&D classes and races, D&D builds. But some of them, I was like, I can't. This is too much of a monster to be a player character race and build. But one of the monsters I had was Cho'Gath. And Cho'Gath, if you don't know League of Legends lore, he's just a big purple bug, and his big move is that he eats your champion. And it's great. He does some other stuff, but his big thing, his ultimate move, is that he just eats you. And it's hilarious, and it's awesome, and it's scary. It's really, really cool. And I made him a purple worm in my lore, and I caught a bunch of flack from people who were like, why can't you make Cho'Gath or all these other people player characters? And I'm like, okay, I hear you. Come play a purple worm in my game, a purple worm named Cho'Gath. S tier. A Quaggoth. I don't know a lot about Quaggoths. I haven't used Quaggoths. No, I have. Never mind. Because I like Myconids, and Myconids use spore servants. So you can have a Quaggoth spore servant, but you can have just a Quaggoth that's a Quaggoth. It's a cool little beastly underground critter, and if you think Quaggoths are neat, I think that's S tier. A Rakshasa. This is like a souped up Tabaxi. People love Tabaxi, people love cats. So if you want to play, Mr. Mistopheles, the Rakshasa sorcerer, I would let that happen. That is an S tier. A Remoraz, or Remerhaze, however you say that. Remoraz, you're a weird little glowy heat bug. Oh, it's another bug. Another freaking bug. Look, if I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you want to be a bug, that's not my thing. I'm not here to yuck your yum. Remorazes are really neat. They have really cool art. They're not the most used D&D monster, but they are still an original D&D monster, and I'm going to put them in S tier. A revenant is just an undead, a reborn with a mission. And if you want to play Leonardo DiCaprio the Revenant in my D&D game, I think that's cool. Let's let it happen. Let's see what happens. S tier for Revenant. We have a rock. Is a big old bird. You just want to be a big old bird. Why is that not S tier? Let's go. Ropers. I have a lot of stories from using ropers. They're always very effective. I think they're a very deadly or challenging monster for their CR for what it's worth. Now, if you want to play a roper, we do have some difficulties with your mobility. You're mostly stuck to a dungeon. I think their move speed is 10 feet or 5 feet per round. It's really kind of pathetic, but that's because their tentacle attacks that draw you in to their mouth is so well designed that you don't have to move around so much. And if you have two ropers on two opposite sides of the dungeon chamber, well, now that's an interesting encounter. So if you wanted to play a roper in my game, that would come with some interesting challenges, but just like with the Dryad, we could have a dungeon-focused campaign or a dungeon-focused one-shot, and I think that you playing a roper could be a lot of fun because they're one of the most fun things I've ran as a DM. I want you to experience that fun as a player, and if you want to play a roper battlemaster fighter who is the best at drawing in your enemies and pulling all these crazy grappling moves, I think that's dope. Let's see what happens S tier. All right, we got a rust monster. Bug. I had a player that really liked rust monsters. He asked me for a pet monster. I let it happen. If you can have a pet, if you can have a horse and be a horse, if you can have a dog and play a dog, I don't see why you can't have a pet rust monster and just play a rust monster. Really cool. Let's see what happens. S tier. Sahuagin. Big deal, especially in Ghosts of Saltmarsh. That's a neat little adventure book. Yeah, if you wanted to play a Sahuagin, they have a whole underwater society that's different from Tritons and Merfolk and Marrows. And if you like that flavor of the Sahuagin, who am I to tell you no? Let's put them in S tier. Salamanders, I think, are a very cool and underrated design for a fire monster. Especially this heightened oh, this is it's not a fire newt. Oh, forgive me, I can't think of the name of this one, but if you want to play the little version of a salamander, I think that's cool. If you want to play the grand version of a salamander, I think that's also cool, so let's put them in S tier. A satyr is a player character class introduced in Theros that I have seen played, and people always have a good time with it. Let's put satyr in S tier. A scarecrow. Oh man, oh, this is super fun. Yeah, he's a Batman villain. Come on, you can play a scarecrow. Let's put him in S tier. A shadow. You could have fun. Again, you could somebody who's playing Peter Pan, and then the other player is playing their shadow. Maybe you're a shadow that takes on different forms of the people you kill or the people you come across. There's a lot of stuff you can do with being a being that is not a corporeal form, but you are just the shadow of another. How interesting. How do you express your personhood as just a shadow? Put you in S tier. Plant monster, shambling mound. Shambling mounds I've had a lot of fun with as a DM. Why would you not have fun with it as a player? I think this is an S tier. A shield guardian. I have had players requesting for a shield guardian from me a lot, and I have said yes a couple times. Shield guardians are really cool. They're a big friendly Warforged, and I've already said yes to Warforged, so let's say yes to Shield Guardian. Moving on, skeletons. We got a Minotaur skeleton and a regular skeleton. I actually had a kid in D&D camp come up to me and be like, hey, my DM is not letting me be a skeleton. And I'm like, okay, hang on, DM, tell me what's going on. He's like, he wants to be a skeleton. I'm like, okay, I understand. It's weird. Skeletons are like a monster and not usually a player race, but what would that change? He's like, well, he could get smashed. He's vulnerable to bludgeoning damage. I'm like, that's a really good point. That is an accurate point from a 9-year-old. Other 9-year-old, you would have to be vulnerable to bludgeoning damage. Is that okay with you? Yeah, that's fine. I want to be a skeleton. Okay. Interesting. DM, what do you say? He can be a skeleton. Okay, it sounds like we have made an agreement. You may now play a skeleton. Go for it. I would let the 9-year-old do it. I would let you do it. Skeleton and Minotaur Skeleton go in S tier. Slod are some of my favorite D&D monsters. I have created some of my best encounters and scenarios from Slod. They are chaos frogs that can turn into other people and infect you, and they have different levels and different motivations and different things that they can do, and Slod are just so fun. I don't even like frogs, but like I think Slod are so cool. So if you came to me and you said, Jackson, I want to play a magical green Slod, or I want to play a nasty death Slod, or a gray Slod, or I want to play an infectious blue Slod, or a red Slod, I would say, I love Slod, let's have some more Slod in my Slod world. Slods, all 5 of them go into S tier. Up next we have the Spectre. Spectres are already available as not player characters, but as summons by Hexblade Warlocks. They hit a certain level, I think it's like 6th or something, it's pretty early, where they kill somebody and they take them as a Spectre, and the Spectre fights for them. So if you can have something that is under the control of a player character, I don't see why you can't just take that thing and say, I would like to be that player character now. So I think Spectres go in S tier along with some of the other undead that we've had. Sphinxes. Sphinxes are very cool. Yeah, very cool, very mythical, classic monsters. I think you can do a lot with Sphinxes. They're very intelligent. They have some innate magic abilities. They can fly. They're cats. Why not play a Sphinx? Let's put them in S tier. Sprite. This is another kind of flavor of fairy. I already said yes to Pixie, so I'll say yes to Sprites and put them in S tier. A Sturge. I think I've used a Sturge like once. It's a weird little like demon mosquito thing. I don't know. Sturges are kind of weird. But sometimes people are drawn to weird things. In fact, in fantasy media in general, we are seeking something that is weird. Something that is out of our normal reality. Even if it is low fantasy, and we just want to see a strong warrior, or a weak warrior that is struggling in their harsh world. So if you came to me and you said, the weird thing that I find is this crazy little mosquito thing, and I would like to try to be one, I would say, okay, I don't get it, but I think you can convince me. So I will say yes without question and put this in S tier. Now we have the succubus and the incubus. And this is a very cool demon. They don't have to come from hell. They don't have to come from the abyss or Gehenna or any of the other lower planes. They can come from anywhere, and they usually have to derive their strength from seducing and killing people. Maybe they don't have to. Maybe they do. Again, you can play it straight, or you can play it subversive, or somewhere in between. And I think it's fun no matter what. I think this is a very cool archetype to play. Going back to the League of Legends video, Evelyn is a succubus, but a lot of people like Evelyn, especially the KDA version, so why not play her in D&D? Let's put them both in S tier. Alright, we got to talk about the Tarrasque. So, the Tarrasque is... it's a big monster. It's a big monster that's been around for a long time. It is a true test for high-level parties to take on. And if you came to me and you said, Jackson, I have heard of this D&D monster called the Tarrasque, and I want to play one with our party of humans and or monsters in your next campaign, please. I would say that the new Godzilla movies and King Kong movies are very, very cool, and they portray a kaiju that is friendly to the humanoids around them and can use their massive destructive powers for good or for evil or for something in between. And are not all of our D&D characters trying to use their destructive powers for good or for evil or something in between? Yes, you're a big, huge, gargantuan even monster that destroys cities, but can you play it as a player character? I think that you can, and I think I would say yes to you playing a Tarask in my next campaign. The Thri-Kreen is a playable character race introduced in Spelljammer, so there, yes. The Treant, Ents are cool. If you came to me and you said, I think Treebeard is the coolest character in Lord of the Rings, where can I sign up to play him in D&D? I would say he's not here, but he is now because I like you and I like the way you're going with this. Treant is S tier. A troglodyte. This is like an underground lizard folk. If you can play a dwarf and you can play a dwergar, you can play a lizard folk, I think you should be able to play a troglodyte. We got a troll. Trolls are cool. Everybody likes a troll. Okay, not like an internet troll, but like, come on. Trolls are fun. Play a troll. Yeah. I like all the Volos trolls when you get into like the venom trolls and the rot trolls and the spirit trolls. They're all fun. Play a troll. Yeah, let's do it. Umbral Hulk. It's another bug. Another freaking bug. But you can play a bug in my game. Let's do it. We got another one for the horse girls, for the horse boys, for the bronies. It's a unicorn. Yeah! Play a unicorn! That's sick. It's already said that they're magical and they have healing powers. Why not play a unicorn cleric or a unicorn paladin? Or just go completely against type. Play a unicorn monk who specializes in horn attacks. Yeah! Let's do it. Play a unicorn. S tier. We got the vampire and the vampire spawn. Guys, like, vampires are so well covered in media. If you come to me and you say, I'm a huge Twilight head, I would like to play Edward Cullen in D&D plays, I would say, it's not my jam, read the first book, didn't get it, but if you want to play a sparkly vampire, who am I to tell you no? Let's see what happens. I will try to kill your Edward Cullen character, and you will try to prove me wrong, that you are more than a sparkly sad boy, or that you are a sparkly sad boy and you evoke your strength from being a sparkly sad boy. It's your fantasy. It's your D&D, as long as it is fun for you and you are not impeding on everyone's fun in the party. I think that this can be very good. I think that you can just come in and say, Jackson, I want to play Strahd. And I'll say, well, I was playing a Ravenloft campaign and I wasn't going to play Strahd, so now you can. Sure, let's see what happens. Play Strahd, play Edward, play anything in between. Lord knows we have enough vampire examples from popular media, and if you just want to play a vampire spawn, then that's fine too. We have a water weird. I've already said yes to a water elemental. A water weird is just a, well, weirder version of a water elemental, so I don't know why I wouldn't say yes to this. Let's put them in S tier. We got a white. You know, maybe you really like Game of Thrones and the others, the White Walkers, and you want to play one of the blue boys. Play a white, sure. Let's put them in S tier. A Will-O-Wisp. Now this is an interesting undead character. You're essentially just a ball of light. It's, oh, that's a wraith. It's tricky, but people like the underdog. Sometimes people like playing with something that has very limited capabilities or abilities and seeing the most that they can get out of them, or seeing what they can build up into. A lot of 5e D&D is kind of a power fantasy. You're trying to get more loot, you're trying to get more power and more levels and everything, and you want to see what happens. And you can do that with a Will-O-Wisp, or if you want to just stay a little ball of light, for good or for evil or for anything in between, I think that's neat. I would say yes. I'm putting Will-O-Wisp in S tier. A wraith, like a ring wraith, or like a weird little ghostly thing. I've said yes to Reborn. I've said yes to Undead. Let's put Wraith in S tier. A wyvern is a poison dragon. Why not? Yeah, play a wyvern. That's cool. S tier. A Zorn. Zorns are cool. They're weird little elementals that can seek out treasure. Most D&D characters want treasure, so why not be something that can actively like sense where treasure is around them and seek it out by burrowing through the ground and fighting things with your 4 arms that is also like your face and mouth. Okay, cool. Go off. S tier. A Yeti. A Yeti is just like a big hairy Goliath, so let's put them in S tier. Yuan-Ti. Now, Yuan-Ti Pureblood are already player character races, so let's put them in S tier. But what about some of the other Yuan-Ti? We got the Malison and we got the Abomination. It's just progressively less humanoid and more snaky. Snakes are neat. People like snakes. I like snakes. Snakes are fun. I would let you be a snake. Let's put Malison in S tier. Let's put the Abomination in S tier. We've got Yugoloths. I said yes to demons. I said yes to devils on 2 sides of the evil spectrum, chaos and law. What about Yugoloths right in the middle? They're the mercenaries of the underworld, and lots of D&D characters are already pretty mercenary, whether they admit it or not. They fight for golden treasure. So a Yugoloth is also just fighting for golden treasure in their own way. I think that you can be an Arcanoloth. This cool foxy guy with a bunch of scrolls. That's an S tier. We got the Mesoloth. That, damn it, another bug. Am I done with bugs? Still putting it in S because some people really like bugs. You darn entomologists. We got the Nikoloth, one of my favorite D&D monsters. Very challenging. Why wouldn't you want to play it? Kind of looks like a gargoyle, but not rocky. Got the Ultraloth. That's what this thing is named. It looks like just an alien. It's an alien with a sword. But if you came to me and you were like, Jackson, I've never played D&D before, but I want to be an alien with a sword, I'd be like, that's cool. Let's do it. S tier. And to wrap up here, we've got zombies. You know, we've got the classic zombie, we've got the ogre zombie, and we've got the beholder zombie. Can you play a zombie in D&D? A zombie, an undead, with very limited speed, very limited attacks, very limited brain power. Maybe you gotta eat more brains to live. Said yes to the Mind Flayer. I say yes to good and evil psychic human wizards. I can say yes to a brain-eating zombie. I can say yes to a weird walking dead disease zombie that doesn't want to eat brains. They just want to spread their disease everywhere. I don't know why you'd want to play that, but that is not for me to know. I need to know that it is cool to you and you would have fun with it. And that is why I would say yes to you playing a zombie. I would certainly say yes to you playing an ogre zombie, because you're just a big bulky boy. You're a zombie with gains. You're an S tier. And a beholder zombie. Well, that's just the most D&D zombie of all. So how can I not say yes and put that in S tier is yes tier. And then we got a lot of other illustrations down here that are from the like back of the book monsters. We got a bunch of animals. We got a bunch of like humanoids, like the Archmage and the Bandit, and yeah, they're barely monsters in the general sense. It's why they're in the back of the book, kind of the appendices, if you will. But like, if you wanted to play a halfling battle mastiff, sure, be a doggo. I think all of these would be an S tier. I will let you play all of these. And well, that's gonna do it. We made it through the whole monster manual, and I ranked all of them on my tier list for if you came to me and said, Jackson, can I play this in your D&D game? I would like this as a player character and not just as a monster. Because monsters can also be interesting characters. Even if you don't see monsters as people or characters, there is something cool there that will appeal to someone. That is why they would want to play that role. We always want to play something that is different from ourselves or the same as ourselves with a slight different flavor. So why not take that just a little higher and play a monster as a player character race? I think it can be very cool. I think it can enhance your game. I think it can open up very cool conversations and very cool stories within your D&D game. So, this is where my tier list stands. I hope you have enjoyed. If you watched all the way, or if you just cut to the end to see the final rankings, here they are. Thank you for watching. And I truly hope that your life is going well, that your games are wonderful, and that you have a Nat 20 day. Bye-bye.